Hello everyone, my name is Chris from the Commander Crew and welcome to another episode of From Pennies to Power. Here on From Pennies to Power, we build decks on their value and not their cost. As Commander becomes an ever more popular format, the cost of play is consistently increasing. My goal is to show you that you can build a whole Commander deck on a budget and it is easy to compete and hold its own. With these decks, the goal is to keep the budget as close to $100 and include as many low-cost cards as possible. Let's brew this build and see how some pennies can make some serious power. On this week's episode, we have Sisay, Weatherlight Captain. She is a 2/2 human soldier that gets +1/+1 for each color among other legendary permanents you control. Then you may pay Wooburg to search your library for a legendary permanent with converted mana cost less than Sisay's power, and then put that card in the battlefield. With this deck tech, we will discuss the strategy, how to build the board, and how to get victory. Each deck will break down the primary theme, the ramp conditions, protection and removal options, synergy setups, and the win condition. Now many would take Sisay as a straight, legendary good stuff commander. The good stuff in this deck though, is gotta be shrines. Yeah, you heard that right. We're building a shrine deck. The minute they announced that shrines will be receiving more options, I knew that shrines needed to become a full commander deck. The strategy of this deck? Play all the shrines, get victory. The card that made me want to build the shrine deck was Sanctum of All. This is a 5-color shrine we've all been looking for. Sanctum of All lets us seek out shrines from our deck and our graveyard, and when we have a total of 6 or more shrines, each shrine ability is going to trigger twice. Once you're able to get 6 shrines, the amount of power and value you can create is absolutely immense. When shrines were first introduced, there was not much power to them. It almost seemed to be a space filler within the set. Now we have 6 new shrines and their powers become exponentially stronger. With the help of Sisay, we can get to 6 shrines faster than our opponents will be able to develop their boards. Now let's get brewing. Initially there were 5 shrines known as the Hondens, 1 for each color. Their mana costs were somewhat high, but their abilities trigger at the beginning of the turn. This would establish value right from the get-go. Honden of Cleansing Fire gains of 2 life for each shrine. Honden of Infinite Rage dealt damage to target creature or player for each shrine. Honden of Life's Web created a 1/1 for each shrine. Honden of Night's Reach forced an opponent to discard a card for each shrine. And Honden of Seeing Winds drew us a card for each shrine. Once all 5 shrines were cast, they would all work together to defeat the enemy. The difficulty of this was it basically seemed like it was only for a 1v1 format. These spells would not really affect multiple opponents that would, in the end, be difficult to include in many decks. This changed once Sanctum Cycle was created. In addition to Sanctum of All, there was a new shrine for each of the 5 colors. Sanctum of Tranquil Light is a low-casting shrine that builds value over time to tap down our opponent's creatures at instant speed. Sanctum of Shattered Heights deals damage to target creature or planeswalker by discarding a shrine or even a land. Sanctum of Fruitful Horrors is probably the best option they could have given us. It gives the player X mana, where X is the number of shrines you control, for a single color. Sanctum of Stone Fangs is a win condition on its own. You can drain each opponent for X life and will gain X life for each shrine we control. And lastly, the Sanctum of Calm Waters, which is also a draw effect, but they change it to a May ability, which can sometimes come in huge if you don't want to just simply deck yourself out. Now that we have a full set of 10 shrines and a Shrine Lord to search up and double the shrine effects, the Shrine ability can finally become a deck to play. Now to ensure we have enough mana to cast every shrine, we have multiple spells to ramp our deck even further. We have mana rocks, creatures, spells, and enchantments all working together to amass as much mana as possible. To begin with the ramp, we have several colorless options that will help us mana fix. Wayfarer's Bauble and Soul Ring each cost 1 mana to cast. This can help establish a quick and efficient ramp. The Bauble will let us search up a land on the battlefield for 2 mana, and the Soul Ring will tap for 2 colorless mana. Star Compass and Arcane Signet both will tap for mana of any color, while Star Compass enters the battlefield tap. The last 2 rocks are Chromatic Lantern, which taps for any color and fixes our entire mana base, and Honor Worn Shaku that can tap for a single colorless mana. The benefit of the Honor Worn Shaku is that by tapping a legendary permanent, you can untap this mana rock. Each shrine in the field is legendary, so basically, each land taps for mana now. To start off with the ramp spells, we have the mono green package. They're very consistent amongst any deck that plays green. First we have Farseek, Nature's Lore, and Rampant Growth that will each search for a basic land and put onto the battlefield tapped. Cultivate will seek up 2 lands where one goes into the battlefield and the other goes into our hand. Then Explosive Vegetation and Sky Shroud Claim, which will both seek up 2 basic lands and place them onto the battlefield. We also want to use our enchantments to double up our mana production and ensure that lands can tap for more mana than just one. With this, we can have the opportunity to activate Sisay multiple times in a single turn. Fertile Ground, Trace of Abundance, and Wild Growth all enchant a land on the battlefield that allows that land to tap for an additional mana when tapped. Having extra mana in a single turn can make a huge difference. Now to have an even greater impact, doubling every single land with Dawn's Reflection and Heartbeat of Spring will accelerate any player's turn. You need to be careful with these though, because it does affect all your opponents as well. When casting one of these spells, you want to ensure you can activate Sisay immediately to have the best return on investment. To round out the ramp, we also have creatures that grant us a value with a ramp and a reduction of mana. Burnished Heart will search for 2 basic lands on the battlefield tapped when sacrificed for 2 colorless. Sakura Tribe Elder will search for a single basic land when sacrificed. And Solemn Simulacrum will net a basic land on the battlefield when entering and draw a card when it dies. Herald of the Pantheon and Starfield Mystic will reduce the cost of enchantments by 1 generic mana, allowing us to play more spells in a single turn. In addition, Herald of the Pantheon will gain 1 life for each enchantment we cast, and Starfield Mystic will gain a 1/1 counter for each enchantment that goes into the graveyard. The best ramp and probably one of the best cards in the entire deck comes from Jegantha the Wellspring, as she taps for Wooburg. That's insane. She taps for 5 mana, 1 of each color. This will activate Sisay in a single turn, so basically you have 2-card combo. This can clear up mana for other spells and abilities with our lands. Jegantha puts a lot of value to this deck. Now that we have all the mana, we gotta find some ways to draw more spells out of the deck. There are multiple ways to draw through the entire deck in addition to the shrines. Satyr Enchanter, Mesa Enchantress, and Enchantress's Presence each grant a draw when we cast an enchantment. Eidolon of Blessings will do the same, but also grant it when it enters the battlefield. Now do remember though that only Mesa Enchantress is a May ability while the others are not, where you must draw. Mystic Remore is a very effective enchantment that can potentially draw us multiple cards when our opponents play non-creature spells, and Omen the Sea lets us scry 2, draw a card, and then scry 2 again at a future date, all at flash speed. This is a phenomenal card to play in blue at only 2 mana. Now once we have all the cards in our hand, we gotta figure out how to protect ourselves. A major issue with shrines to this day is that we can take a while to be able to cast enough spells to put them onto the battlefield. While we're building the board with shrines, we also want to build up our line of defense to protect us from future threats. Destiny Splitter will give all of our creatures and enchantments the ability to not be countered, which can come in handy once you try to cast Sanctum of All. Privileged Position will ensure that all of the permanents have hexproof, as once you have 6 shrines and Sanctum to trigger twice, every opponent will want to destroy multiple shrines. To ensure our opponents are unable to attack us freely though, we have Ghostly Prison and Propaganda, which each force our opponents to pay 2 for each attacking creature. Lastly, there's Fierce Safety, which has a very similar effect, but it counts as X for each creature attacking, where X is the number of enchantments we control. And with 33 total enchantments in this deck, that card is going to be absolutely a huge target. It is inevitable, though, that one or more multiple enchantments are going to be destroyed and targeted. You got to make sure you're able to bring those cards back. Open the Vaults will return all artifacts and enchantments to the battlefield, but be careful as this affects every player. Dance of the Mans can bring back multiple enchantments from your graveyard, and has the potential to turn them all into major threats as 4/4 creatures too. And Crystal Chimes will return all your enchantments from your graveyard to your hand when sacrificed for 3 mana. Now no deck will ever be complete without a bit of Tutors, to ensure you find all the proper pieces. Now Tutors can be kind of expensive as a whole, but there are several more budget-friendly options. Idyllic Tutor will help you search for any enchantment in your deck. The Diabolic Tutor will help you search out any card with the entire deck. And Bring to Light will search for a card up to 5 CMC and allow you to cast it at no cost if the converged cost is equal to Wooburg. Being able to find the right shrine at the right time can help create the best synergy. Now there are several cards to give the deck even more perfect synergy. A Dryad of the Elysian Grove will let us play an additional land while making every land each basic land type. This can ensure we have the right mana color fixing every single turn. Paradox Haze will double up your upkeep phase to let Sanctum of All and all the Honden shrines trigger twice. That's insane! This will make so much value. And lastly, with the amount of drawing in the deck, it can be quite simple to basically draw the entire deck and lose. Legacy Weapon can shuffle itself back into the library whenever placed in the graveyard from anywhere, but it also gives us the option to exile any permanent for Wooburg. This way we can have an immediate threat that can almost never go away. Now if the shrines don't give us the win, we have 3 additional options to build a vast board of creatures to help us push the win. Ajani's Chosen will create a 2/2 cat token for each enchantment we cast. Arcana's Sun's Grace will create a 2/2 flying Pegasus for each enchantment entering the battlefield, but also give him lifelink. And Sigil of the Empty Throne will create a 4/4 flying angel every time we cast an enchantment. Once we have enough shrines on the board with all the other enchantments, it's going to be pretty much impossible for our opponents to win. Every opponent will seek to destroy every shrine you play. With this extra win condition, we will be able to swarm the board with tokens to slowly bring our opponent's life total to 0. Now the land base is pretty basic in this deck. The overall deck is primarily green and white, so we want to make sure we put a focus on those colors. Thriving Isle, Thriving Heath, and Thriving Grove can all tap for additional mana, and you get to choose that color mana when they enter. Sandstep Citadel, Opulent Palace, and Jungle Shrine can all tap for 3 different colors. Canopy Vista and Prairie Stream will tap for 2 colors natively. Command Tower and Exotic Orchard will tap for all 5 colors when necessary. And then you have Evolving Wilds, Croson Verge, and Myriad Landscape will search out the colored mana we need when we need it. And after that, we just have 10 plains and 12 forests. Pretty straightforward. And that's it. That's how we take shrines to the next level and dominate our opponents. What was once a cycle of cards with almost no impact, we have created an entire deck that can defeat multiple opponents at a single turn. Shrines can be upgraded to even more powerful as time progresses. With this deck, the total I found was to be about roughly $134. Now we did go over the $100 budget, but this is still far less than your average Sisay Weatherlight Captain deck. Sisay Weatherlight Captain is a 5-color commander that can go absolutely any direction. Once you play your first shrine, everyone at the table is going to be extremely excited because though it may seem to be a weak choice to build, it can establish a huge impact to the board and create so much value and have so much power in no time flat. Now is this how you would build Sisay? Which cards would you add? Which would you remove? I'd love to hear all your remarks and put them in the comments down below. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video with my take on Sisay Shrines. Please remember to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification for future videos as it helps us out with the Commander crew quite a bit. And remember, who's your commander?